We're joined by Mr. Arun Kumar, Chairman and CEO of KPMG, on the sidelines of the Mint India Investment Summit 2020. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar,
Delighted
for
to be here.
speaking to Mint. Straight away, my first question, there's so much worry spread across the world regarding the global spread of coronavirus. And now there are so many new cases in India that are also coming up. How do you see that affecting the country, and especially in the state that it is right now, where economy is falling, consumption is slowing down? How do you think coronavirus can affect India?
Well, it's certainly not going to help. It's clearly a black swan event that we haven't seen these kinds of things at this scale before. Although there has been some experience with the whole SARS thing back in 2004 or so. So this is a place where there has to be a fair amount of, globally coordinated response. For us, each of our businesses, we are looking very carefully at what do we need to do to make sure that we're prepared for any eventuality. So just in our own case, we want to make sure that we don't put people at risk of getting infected. We want to make sure that we control travel. So a number of precautionary measures is what we can do at the moment.
Yes.
And then take it from there.
Yes. While caution is definitely what we need to exercise at this point in time, I would also like to understand what are some of the sectors, business sectors that could be most affected by this threat of coronavirus spreading further than it has already.
Everywhere that there are human beings working can be affected because if people fall sick, that's going to be affected. If you look at what's happening in countries like in China, in Singapore, etc., there are many cases where companies are advising half their people to stay home from coming to work. So just the very fact that people can't go to work is going to have an impact on productivity, output, and so forth. We've seen in China's case how supply chains globally have been greatly affected by the fact that people were not allowed to go to work. So it's new territory for us. All we can do at the moment is to make sure that we try to keep as many people safe as possible and reduce the spread of infection.
Yes, while it is very, very important at this point in time to curb the spread of the deadly virus. On a different note, I would also like to understand that, India has been aspiring to become a $5 trillion economy. And while there are some of the structural issues, be it with the economy or be it, again, with the spread of the virus and how it is affecting supply chains globally, how do you see India can get there, and what could be some of the pockets that it can bank on for this kind of growth?
So I think we have to keep the virus spread aside for now. It's one of those unforeseen events. So we have to look well beyond that. And my belief is that just the talent and the energy that we have in India is going to propel India to become a $5 trillion economy. The question is which year is it going to be. It's going to get there. It's already one of the largest economies in the world. And just the talent and the aspirations are going to push us and motivate us to move forward. Now, to do that, there are a few fundamental things that you need to do. One clearly is infrastructure, and it's an area where the government has been continuing to spend on infrastructure. So public spending on infrastructure must be maintained because spending on infrastructure helps in multiple ways. One, it creates immediate employment. Two, it improves logistics costs. And in India, clearly, for us to have a very cost-effective manufacturing, particularly economy, logistics costs need to be addressed. So infrastructure will help that. Third, infrastructure will help tourism, both international and domestic, which again is an employment generator. So infrastructure, to my mind, is very key to stimulating and growing the economy.
While you're absolutely right, in fact, government has set out an ambitious plan of spending $1.4 trillion over the next 4 years, and it will, like you said, definitely help the growth in various other sectors and in increasing employment. What could be some of the ways to facilitate infrastructure spending?
So one of the biggest issues in infrastructure spending is where will the money come from and what kind of money is available. So it's really important to understand that infrastructure spending, there are many phases with different risk profiles. So there's the early phase where usually higher risk. So in cases like roads, the government is actually building the roads and taking that risk and then turning it over. So we need to have the right kind of financing for each stage of infrastructure. Once, for example, a road is built, then you know that you can have several years of toll revenues coming in. At that point, the risk is pretty much significantly reduced. So different categories of investors come in at different phases in the cycle. So we need to have a coordinated strategy for getting the right investor in the right space. Fundamentally, long-term financing is required for many areas of infrastructure. So that the National Infrastructure Investment Fund is a really good move, and we should see more such moves. We should see many states putting together such infrastructure investment funds, because that's the kind of long-term approach that is needed to push the development of infrastructure.
Two last questions, sir. The first would be, what is your view on these asset classes, the newer asset classes, infrastructure investment trusts and real estate investment trusts being created, in terms of facilitating or helping investments into infrastructure?
All of them are very helpful because it really allows some liquidity to come in. You can buy a unit and you can sell a unit when you want to. So it attracts a different class of investors into these investment classes. So I think it's extremely helpful to have those.
Absolutely. So then the last question would be, if there are, some of the outline measures that you can suggest that would help the government achieve its growth faster to achieve that $5 trillion target, what would those be?
Well, in the short term, I think next few years, continuing to spend on infrastructure. Longer term, you also have to look at the soft infrastructure. What kind of expenditures are we having on education, particularly? Are we creating a workforce that is skilled for the new technologies that are coming our way? So that investment in education is really important. And if I look even further, I would say there's got to be more investment in research and innovation. So these are the things I would look at over multiple year spectrum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar,
Most
for
welcome.
speaking
Great
to
to be
me.
here.
It was a pleasure having you here.
Likewise. Thank you.